This right here is the $50 toolbox from Menards. And as you guys have seen, probably in my crappie video, I put my Garmin in it. And this is how I did it. This box comes with two of these things. And they're kind of cool. I mean, for a toolbox, it'd be really cool, but not for this. So what I did is I bought some number 8 stainless screws and nylock nuts and some number 10 screws and nylock nuts and some of these white little cable clips. So what I did is I used the original bracket that came with the Garmin, and that way I can still rotate this thing where I want to see it. And it is bolted to the lid. And what I did there is the holes in this bracket are slotted at an angle. So when I drilled my holes, I set this thing off to the side so that I would have room for my transducer, because the whole idea is to have it all in one contained box. So each of those screws that I put in there, I drilled near the bracing in the top. That would give it the most support. So those go clear through the top, and I put in large washers on the top and on the outside. Pretty much everywhere that I had to do anything, that's what I did. And I figured this would be kind of top heavy. So I bought a right hand hinge latch, whatever you call them. This is like $2. And it works fantastic. It does what it's supposed to do. Got that secured down here. Got it secured up there with the bolts and the nuts and the washers again. And that holds it in place. I can pivot this wherever I want. I left these. I didn't want to clamp down on my cables because I wanted to let this cable freely go up and down through these as this thing goes up and down, as I open and close it. I wanted to make sure my battery was going to stay in one place, so I had some strap left over from something else. Again, washer, bolts, nuts. I bolted them all the way on all 4 ends. So each of these is 2 separate pieces. This piece here was one of these. What I did was I cut it off right here, all along there. It's strong, but it's brittle. I cut it with a mini hacksaw, and it was a piece of cake. But one thing I noticed is that this thing is shaped like a wedge. So it's not straight. It goes like this. So when I tried to put just this piece in there, I ended up having to sand some of this down to get it fit down in the track all the way to the bottom. That gives me a good backstop to put my battery up against and for my transducer storage. This is just some shipping foam. Again, I used shoe goo. I love shoe goo. You guys know that. To hold this in place. Just a couple dabs here and there, nothing major. I got it down on the bottom 2. And that will keep me from destroying my transducer. Get rid of that thing. Keep me from destroying my transducer. Did put a switch in, and the switch was pre-wired, but also bought a cover for the switch. So that when I turn this on and shut it back off, I make sure that that's always going to stay off. And usually I unplug the battery too, but if I forget and I go on a long trip and a cable or something happens to flip this switch on, then my battery will probably be half dead before I get to wherever I'm going. Mounted the GLS against this side wall. I had to come up, I bought a tube and I cut some tubing and made spacers so that this would stay out even with these ribs in the unit, in the box here. I also put a 1/4 inch piece of rubber underneath this so that it would absorb some shock if this thing got set down really hard on the ice. Something like that. On the battery, I've got some more shipping stuff. I got it under the battery and along the side wall of the battery, not on the back, not in the front. That just helps insulate it from when it's sitting on the ice and from the outside. But honestly, it's really not going to matter, because when you're using it, this thing's going to be open. It's going to be cold anyways. So it's kind of irrelevant. It's just more to cushion the battery. I made this mount for my transducer. This is just a piece of stainless steel. I have a stainless bolt going through a hole in the stainless steel, clear through it, clear through to the other side, and I ground it off so that the cable would not rub on it. I filled that whole thing with JB Weld. So this piece of metal and this piece of plastic is not going to move. I carry my Allen wrench for my transducer right here. Just got it shoved in the foam. It'll always be there. I know where it is. I don't have to look for it. I don't rotate this much anyways for the down view. I'm not sure if you really have to or not. So that goes in there. It's protected. It's not going to get damaged or anything. I built my own pole, and what it is it's 3/4 inch electrical PVC, and it works great. I don't have any problems with it. I did take a little bit of dielectric grease and put it on the threads on both ends on all of the pieces so that water won't stick and freeze to it. These pieces, they're 18.5 inches assembled, but they'll be the length of the pipe, I think it was like 17.25, somewhere in there. And I wanted them to fit inside this lid. I also made some smaller ones. This is like an 8 inch, that's like a 6 inch. And up here we have the piece that pivots. So what I've got, you pop-up guys, you'll recognize these legs in that frame. That's from a HT Polar pop-up. It's like a tip-up, but it's not a tip-up, it's a pop-up. You put a spacer in there, put a rivet through it. This one I put a spacer in there, put a bolt through it so that I can regulate the tension on the pipe as I turn it. Okay. And then I got some goofy plastic clamp up there for my depth. when you assemble all this, you want these fittings to be where you need them to be, so that when you screw it all together, no matter how many pieces I put together, this fitting here will always point to where I'm looking. This was the absolute last piece I put on. These are just little bungee cords. Just drill a little hole, and then you can hook them in another hole, and then that will hold everything in place. This piece here I added last night. I just sold my Vexilar a few days ago. I've had this on it for like 3 years, and I've never used it because my Vexilar was in a bag, and it was more of a hassle to deal with the bag to be able to use this than it was to just use a flashlight to charge glow jigs. So I took this thing and I mounted it right to this corner with the screw and a washer on the back side. I did put a little plate in the bottom of it so that when I set my jig in here, it won't go through and get hooked on this foam. It won't get hooked. Of course, the transducer won't be there, but it won't get hooked on a cable if it's laying underneath of it or something. Already comes with an off and on switch. This harness that I got, I bought a separate wiring harness for the power for this and the display, and it was like 50 bucks for that wiring harness. And it came with another power tap on it. You just push these down, stick your wire in it, and let them come back up, and they'll hold the wire there. So that if there's something ever happens to this glow ring, I can just take it right out of there and get another one or do something different, whatever I want to do. But that harness was worth the money. So when I power this on, Garmin comes on. There's power to the glow ring. And I really love this unit. I don't know what this whole assembly weighs. I don't care what it weighs. It's all contained. It's in a really decent box. And I think it will last me quite a while. This is going to work pretty good in a boat too. I have to come up with a pole for that. Oh, one thing I got to tell you is you have to mark where this is so when you rotate it, so that you can shut the lid and have it not hit your battery or hit this. And I didn't want it to hit my cables. That's why there's a big empty void here in the middle. I can probably put something back in here if I need to. And if I really wanted to, I could throw another battery in there. So when I do this, when I go to fold it up, I have to turn these white dots directly across from each other, like that. And that way I know that I can close this thing without damaging something. And that works pretty good. We're going to shut this thing off. I'm going to put the screen on it, screen protector. And then fold this down, and I'm not hitting anything, and it closes all the way by itself. Another thing you can do, I built this whole thing over a few days, and it was hard to do, but to make sure that this wasn't going to hit anything, what I did is I took my phone and I set it over along the edge here inside, had it on video, and then as I was opening and closing it and fitting stuff in here, then I would re-watch the video and I could see what needed to move and what didn't. And that was the best part of it, is I could do it without drilling a ton of holes in this box. So every hole that is in this box right now is being used. I don't have any extra holes where water can seep up from the bottom or snow can get in from the sides. Yeah, it was a long build, but it's worth it. I was going to do the Harbor Freight one. It's the medium-sized suitcase box. It looks like a Pelican, but it's not a Pelican. And I would have had to build a new bracket for the display, which I didn't want to do. Every one of those that I've seen just looks really crammed and everything's smashed in there. And I did not want to do that with this. There's another power tap on this cable, and I'm not exactly sure what plugs in it, but that hole is fairly large. And it's another power tap. It's red and black going in there, but I don't know what to plug in it. I don't know what size it is or anything. I'm probably never going to use it. With this thing, I can get away with about 12 inches of ice and still have the transducer below the ice. And that's about all I get around here. I've never seen it over 21 down here. But all these longer extensions, they're for like if I go up to South Dakota with my cousin and go chase some pike and perch and whatever else. I was looking for some straps to hold the transducer cable, and I got these Velcro deals here. And what they are is they're for rolling up cables. And just, you just got to wrap it around there so that it will stay on the cable, and then put your cable in between the strap and the Velcro, and then just Velcro whatever's left onto itself, and that holds the cable in place. It was like $5 for 6 of them, and it worked pretty good. But yeah, that's my Garmin box. Thanks for watching.